Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology as we continue on with the aircraft showcases. Now today we're going to be doing a fictional scenario back in, probably would have been early 60s, give or take. We'll find out for sure when we go through the history, but basically we're going to be simulating a fight between Taiwanese F-104 Starfighters and Chinese interlopers. So we're going to be a flight of 3 Starfighters against 3 Chinese MiG-17s. And because I can't really find the appropriate bomber, we're going to be going up against some Su-7 fitters serving as our bomber. So we'll be at 20,000 feet. We'll start out 10 miles from enemy forces, custom gun load. And since we're arguably the ones defending friendly ground targets, we're not going to bother with any of that. And I think that's a pretty good setup there, so we'll get started with that. As far as our load goes, alright, I'll keep the 250-gallon tank. We're probably going to jettison that early on. Also, I don't know if any Starfighters were ever modified to carry Sparrow missiles, but the Taiwanese ones probably wouldn't have been authorized for it if they were. So instead, and we don't have a fuel tank small enough for the wingtip, so we're just going to ignore those. Instead, we're just going to take a heavy loadout of 6 Sidewinders that are appropriate for the time. And with that, let's get started. Oh yeah, this is probably, I don't know how many. What's the conversion between a pound of fuel to, let's see, 1 gallon JP5 weight. Around 6.7 pounds. So, 250... times 6.7 gives us 1,600 pounds of fuel. So, okay, so this is increasing our fuel capacity by like 25%. So we probably will drop it pretty quickly, but this will let us afterburn in the combat and get a easy speed and altitude advantage over our opponents early on. So we are already at afterburner. So let's alright, they are just coming in the range. We'll give our squad orders to attack bandits. And we're going to take the high road, they'll take the bottom. And it's important to remember for this that because we're using the older Sidewinder, we cannot attack from the front. There we go. Jettisoning external fuel. And we can come in down on top of them. Ooh, we got a big, juicy, fat target here. Good hits, good hits. Now we got a quick burn off speed so we can corner a bit better. And I think that'll do it. Kicking the afterburner, come back up. Ooh, he's got his afterburner kicked on too. Oh, that might do it. Ah, couldn't get a lock. Holy, there we go. Oh, we are taking fire. So we're going to use our superior speed to get the hell out of there. It should be superior. As we are Mach 2 capable. But of course the AI cheats and climbs, so we might have to We might have to dive to get some of that distance. There we go. We're a mile out now. And he has no hope of catching up to us. So at this point, what we can do... Okay, he's turning back onto us. So what we're probably going to do is let's turn counter to him. And now we're going to kick off the afterburners because I do want to... There we go. Put on the flaps. My goal here is to try to turn us around before he gets close enough, which is really hard with these small wings we got here. Alright. Didn't quite make the merge there. Let's see. Anyone else we can go after? Let's go after this MiG-17 here. I think we can get the drop on him because it looks like he's going after one of our wingmates, which are both still alive, so that's good. So at least as far as we know now, we got one enemy damaged, and one of my wingmates got damaged, but they're both still alive. Perfect. We got a nice rear shot. We just got to get within range. We don't have IR seekers, so it's kind of hit or miss with the Sidewinder actually tracking on. We're going to let him get out a little bit. Alright. We've got just about the perfect shot here. Come on. Almost. They're going to be a little bit more maneuverable than us, but we are faster. Damn it. Couldn't quite pull it off. And I assume that, where is he? He's behind us now. Alright, well, let's see if we can't pop around. He's going down now, so hopefully we can stay on his tail a bit easier this time. But let's wait to dive in on him just so we can preserve that energy. I have no idea. No. We were not enough in his rear aspect to... Oh. Why are you doing this to me? This is what's really annoying in these older dogfights, because the AI cheats, and they can climb without any regard for the laws of physics. Okay. Which really annoys me. I assume it's because they couldn't program the AI to actually be smart enough to understand them and use them in a dogfight effectively. This is annoying. We keep getting to where we almost have him locked up and he'll just go, oh, I'm just gonna climb. Well, our Sidewinders are not performing great. Okay. Well, let's try to get into the merge here with the gun instead of the Sidewinder. Ah, damn it. Oh, we might have our shot here now. There we go. Oh, he's out of fuel. I think he ran out of fuel. Oh, man. What a dumbass. Although our fuel reserves probably... Yeah, they're pretty low themselves. But now that frees us up to go after the Su-7s. Pull our flap back in. These guys should be a little less maneuverable. at slow speeds than those MiG-17s. Alright, we got some good hits there. We definitely got his attention. But it looks like he's gonna ignore us for a little while. So that's his loss. Because then, alright, we still have both wingmen. Oh, there he goes with the Sidewinder. Alright, I think we got... Alright, he's fighting a fitter up there. So we're gonna climb and try to help him out. I think this might have been the one we briefly hit earlier. Alright, 7 miles out. Our fuel is depleting very rapidly. But if we can make the merge in time before running out of fuel, we should be in a good position. But you can see how the Starfighter is fast, and it can accelerate pretty fast. You can see here we're at a 35-degree climate. And granted, we're using afterburner, but we're still accelerating. But the downside is because the wings are so small, it has shit maneuverability. Yeah, and he's about to... I think our wingmen are about to kick the bucket. And we're gaining on them, but very, very slowly. Okay, that should... Yeah, we got another MiG-17. That looks like it ran out of fuel. This was not the fight I was hoping for. We're going to... Oh, no. Well, it's just a stall and not a spin. I can recover from that. We're going to head east, and we're going to land and refuel. It looks like... Ooh. Yeah, they, that 2-7 disengaged as well. I think we're just gonna head... Our wingmen seem to think the other base is closer, so I guess we'll head that way. And we're gonna climb as high as we can. Just in case we have to drift. Yeah, we do not have a lot of fuel capacity. If we hadn't started in the Taiwan Strait, we would have been kind of fucked. Oh, he's landing too. He must also be low on fuel. That's amusing. I've never seen the enemy AI do that in a quick mission before. Oh, it's 10. We should be... Yeah, we can go up to 25 miles in track while scan. Let's see if we can push our... We're probably at the limit of our ceiling here, just about, at least at this speed. And I don't want to... I'm not willing to... I think our wingman just died. I don't see them on the... Oh, we're about to die. Alright, cut the engine. We are coming in for a really hot landing. And unfortunately, the... We're gonna have to try to do this just right. Alright. Because... Yep, I think you can see down there there's a little glimmer. I want to say it's probably our wingman crashing. Yeah, so we're gonna have to try to line up with the airfield with our remaining fuel and land, which is gonna be a bit of a tall order. Alright. So far, so good. Alright. Alright, we're lined up. They're lining up. We could land on that tarmac. Or on that taxiway. But alright, let's put the flaps down. Brake. Coming in like a speeding missile here. Alright. Oh, I think our wingman might have actually been able to... Alright. We made it down, technically. But that was a bit of a hard landing. I probably should have kicked in the afterburner earlier. But we destroyed 5 of 6 targets, and we technically recovered... I guess both of our wingmen managed to live. I mean, I think we technically recovered ourselves there. I guess I wasn't looking at our descent rate, but boy, that was a hell of a mission. Did not go the way I was expecting. I didn't imagine it was gonna... Like, I knew the F-104 had a small fuel reserve, but I probably should have hung on to my external tank a little bit longer before jettisoning it. Probably until the first turn. But as you can see, I mean, we already couldn't turn, so turning with that thing there wouldn't have been turning. We would have just been going in a straight line forever. But in any case, I suppose I do still owe you some history. So, Clarence L. Kelly Johnson, Vice President of Engineering and Research at Lockheed Skunk Works, visited USAF air bases across South Korea in November of 1951 to speak with fighter pilots about what they wanted and needed in a fighter aircraft. At the time, the American pilots were confronting the MiG-15 with the North American F-86 Sabre, and many felt that the MiGs were superior to the larger, more complex American fighters. The pilots requested a small and simple aircraft with excellent performance, especially high speed and high altitude capabilities. Johnson started the design of such an aircraft upon his return to the United States. In March 1952, his team was assembled. They studied over 100 aircraft configurations, ranging from small designs such as 8,000 pounds to large ones up to 50,000 pounds. To achieve the desired performance, Lockheed chose a small and simple aircraft weighing in at 12,000 pounds with a single powerful engine. The engine chosen was the new General Electric J79 turbojet, an engine of dramatically improved performance in comparison with contemporary designs. The small design, powered by a single J79, issued temporary design number L246, remained essentially identical to the prototype Starfighter as eventually delivered. Lockheed designated the prototype Model 083. Johnson presented his new fighter concept to the United States Air Force on the 5th of November 1952. And they were interested enough to create a general operational requirement for a lightweight fighter to supplement and ultimately replace the yet-to-fly North American F-100. 3 additional companies were named finalists for the requirement: Republic Aviation with the AP-55, an improved version of its prototype XF-91 Thunderceptor; North American Aviation with the NA-212, which eventually evolved into the F-107, and Northrop Corporation with the N-102 Fang, another J-79-powered entry. Although all 3 finalist proposals were strong, Lockheed had what proved to be an insurmountable head start and was granted a development contract on the 12th of March 1953 for 2 prototypes. These were given the designation XF-104. Work progressed quickly, with a mock-up ready for inspection at the end of April and work starting on 2 prototypes soon after. Meanwhile, the J-79 engine was not ready. Both prototypes were instead built to use the Wright J-65 engine, a licensed constructed version of the Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire. The first prototype was completed at Lockheed's Burbank facility by early 1954 and first flew on March 4th at Edwards Air Force Base. The total time from contract to first flight was less than 1 year. Though development of the F-104 was never a secret, only a vague description of the aircraft was given when the USAF first revealed its existence. No photographs of the aircraft were released to the public until 1956, even though the XF-104 first flew in 1954. At the April 1956 public unveiling of the YF-104A, the engine inlets were obscured with metal covers. Visible weapons, including the M61 Vulcan cannon, were also hidden. Despite the secrecy, an artist's rendering of the yet unseen F-104 appeared in the September 1954 edition of Popular Mechanics that was very close to the actual design. The prototype made a hop into the air during taxi trials on the 28th of February 1954 and flew about 5 feet off the ground for a short distance, but this was not counted as a first flight. On the 4th of March, Lockheed test pilot Tony LeVere flew the XF-104 for its first official flight. It was airborne for only 21 minutes, much shorter than planned due to landing gear retraction problems. The second prototype was destroyed several weeks later during gunfiring trials when the hatch to the ejector seat blew out, depressurizing the cockpit and causing the pilot to eject in the mistaken belief that a cannon mishap had crippled the aircraft. Nevertheless, on the 1st of November 1955, the remaining XF-104 was accepted by the USAF. Based on the testing and evaluation of the XF-104, the next variant, the YF-104A, was lengthened and fitted with a General Electric J79 engine, modified landing gear, and modified air intakes. The YF-104A and subsequent models were 5 feet 6 inches longer than the XF-104 to accommodate the larger GE J79 engine. The YF-104 initially flew with the GE XJ79 GE3 turbojet, which generated 9,300 pounds of dry thrust, or 14,800 pounds with the afterburner. This was later replaced by the J79 GE3A with an improved afterburner. 17 YF-104As were ordered by the USAF on the 30th of March 1955 for further flight testing. The first of them flew on 17th February 1956, and with the other 16 trial aircraft, was soon carrying out aircraft and equipment evaluation and tests. On the 1st of May 1957, one of the prototypes was destroyed when the ailerons malfunctioned, resulting in the aircraft tumbling wildly. The pilot ejected safely. Lockheed made several improvements to the YF-104A throughout this testing period, including strengthening the airframe, adding a ventral fin to improve directional stability at supersonic speed, and installing a boundary layer control system to reduce landing speed. And I'm just going to set up a basic flight here in Egypt, if it'll let me use, it'll let me use whatever I want, just so that way I can give you guys something pretty to look at while I read through the rest of the history. Problems were encountered with the J79. Wow. I know I didn't read the mission, but wow. Mission failed already. I just want to do a proper landing. Oh. What? What? We couldn't even take off fast enough? Okay. That was weird. Take off all, land safely back at your airfield. Okay, let's try this again. Problems were encountered with the J79. Seriously, how am I immediately failing the mission? Problems were encountered with the J79 afterburner. Further delays were caused by the need to add AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. On the 20th of January 1958, the first production F-104 to enter service was delivered to the 83rd Fighter Interceptor Wing. Wow, it won't take off. That's... Never had this problem before. Okay, let's try a different one. No, that's from the Eisenhower. Basic flight landing. I think I gotta go Big Gulf. Okay, screw it. We're just gonna Let's have a rematch then for our remaining with our remaining enemies from the last mission. 20,000 feet and a Su-7. There we go. There we go, rematch. In response to a 1957 German air staff paper asking for a single aircraft to fulfill its fighter, bomber, and reconnaissance mission. Look at that. Look at how high he's just immediately... Oh, I'm level with you now. Haha. Yeah, suck on that. And then we'll come around and probably... Let's wait until we have 5 miles separation, and then we'll circle around. And we should be able to get him head on then. In response to a 1957 German air staff paper asking for a single aircraft to fulfill its fighter, bomber, and reconnaissance mission requirements, Lockheed redesigned the entire airframe, including 96 new forgings, additional skin panels, and reinforced landing gear with larger tires and improved brakes. The proposed F-104G Super Starfighter, G for Germany, featured a more powerful J7911A engine, a larger tail with a powered rudder, the same used on the two-seat F-104B and D models, improved blown flaps with a mode for improved maneuverability, electric de-icing equipment for the air intake inlets, and a larger drag chute. Avionics were improved as well, primarily with the Autonetics F-15A NASAR North American Search and Range Radar. Multimode radar and an LN3 inertial navigation system by Litton Industries. Alright. Those sweep wings might give him a little bit more maneuverability here, but I think we're firmly behind him now. Yeah, he's got his brake deployed. He's trying to slow down, and unfortunately, he probably has better slow speed performance than us, but we got him locked up now. Box 1. There we go. And now we can go back and have a good landing, hopefully. And now we don't have to worry about fuel either, because we still have a full onboard load, and we even still have a little bit of our external reserves remaining. So the Starfighter is victorious. Very unique design too. Very iconic. There we go. And this was the first such inertial navigation system to be put into operational service. Excuse me. Altogether, these changes increased the amount of external weapons that could be carried to 3,000 pounds and also allowed the fighter to fulfill the NATO requirement of carrying a 2,000-pound special store, which is code for a nuclear weapon, under the fuselage. Belgium, the Netherlands, and Italy selected the F-104 soon after as well, and the 4 European nations set up 4 production groups to jointly manufacture the F-104G under license. Arbeitsgemeinschaft, ARGE South, consisted of Messerschmitt, Heinkel, Dornier, and Siebel. Arbeitsgemeinschaft North comprised Hamburger Flugzeugbau, Focke-Wulf, and Wasserflug in Germany, as well as Fokker and Evolanda in the Netherlands. The West Group was made of Sabca and Avians Ferry in Belgium, and the Italian group was formed of Fiat, Machi, Piaggio, Sacca, and CIA Marchetti. The 4 groups were contracted to manufacture 210, 350, 189, and 200 F-104G aircraft, respectively. In addition, 1,225 J79 turbojets were also produced under license by BMW in Germany, Fabrique Nationale in Belgium, and Alfa Romeo in Italy. Canada, who had also chosen the Starfighter to fulfill its NATO obligations, delivered 121 sets of wings, aft fuselages, and tail assemblies built by Canadair to Europe, while it constructed 200 CF-104s with Orenda-built engines for the Royal Canadian Air Force. Later, the two would also employ an additional 110 MAP-funded F-104Gs destined for Europe. Lockheed, for its part, built 191 two-seat trainers for both Europe and Canada, as well as supplying spares and technical support. The multinational consortium formed a central coordination office named NASMO, NATO Starfighter Management Office, in Koblenz, Germany, which succeeded in achieving a high level of standardization and cooperation. This was evidenced by an F-104G being assembled in April 1963 at Erding Air Base in Germany, consisting of components constructed in all 4 European partner countries. However, this central coordination resulted in long delays in implementing needed modifications and upgrades. Some of the modifications that were proposed during this time, mainly from the Joint Task Force at Edwards Air Force Base in California, were the installation of an arrestor hook, a standby attitude indicator, and the emergency engine nozzle closure system. In all, 2,578 F-104s were produced by Lockheed and under license by various foreign manufacturers. The Starfighter's airframe was an all-metal, primarily duralumin, with some stainless steel and titanium. The fuselage was approximately 2.5 times as long as the airplane's wingspan. The wings were centered on the horizontal reference plane or along the longitudinal centerline of the fuselage, and were located substantially further aft on the fuselage than most contemporary designs. The aft fuselage was elevated from the horizontal reference plane, resulting in a lifted tail, and the nose was drooped. This caused the aircraft to fly nose up, helping to minimize drag. As a result, the top tube, air inlet scoops, and engine thrust line were all canted slightly from the center line of the fuselage. The F-104 featured a radical wing design. Most jets of the period used a swept wing or delta wing, which balanced aerodynamic performance, lift, and internal space for fuel and equipment. Lockheed tests determined that the most efficient shape for a high-speed supersonic flight was a very small and thin, straight, mid-mounted trapezoidal wing. Much of the data on the wing shape was derived from testing done with the experimental unmanned Lockheed X-7, which used a wing of a similar shape. The leading edge of the wing was swept back at 26 degrees, with the trailing edge swept forward by a slightly smaller amount. The new design was extremely thin, and with a thickness-to-chord ratio of only 3.36% and an aspect ratio of 2.45, the wing's leading edges were so thin, in fact, 0.016 inches or 0.41 millimeters, that they were a hazard to ground crews. Hence, protective guards were installed on them during maintenance. The thinness of the wings required fuel tanks and landing gear to be placed in the fuselage, and the hydraulic cylinders driving the ailerons were limited to 1 inch thickness to fit. And we are deviating from our course here, which it's a good thing we aren't limited on fuel. We'll set a course to 110. And use some rudder tilt to seal the deal here. There we go. The small, highly loaded wing caused an unacceptably high landing speed even after adding both leading and trailing edge flaps. Thus, designers developed a boundary layer control system, or BLCS, of high-pressure bleed air, which was blown over the trailing edge flaps to lower landing speeds by more than 30 knots and help make landing safer. Flapless landings would be without the BLCS engaged, as flaps in the land position were required for its operation. Landing without the BLCS engaged was only done in emergencies and could be a harrowing experience, especially at night. I think that's basically what we are simulating there, as we had no engine thrust. The stabulator was mounted atop the fin to reduce inertia coupling. Because the vertical fin was only slightly shorter than the length of each wing and nearly as aerodynamically effective, it could act as a wing-on-rudder application, rolling the aircraft in the opposite direction of rudder input. To offset this effect, the wings were canted downward at 10 degrees negative dihedral angle. This downward canting also improved roll control during high-G maneuvers common in air-to-air combat. The fuselage had a high fineness ratio. It was slender, tapered towards the sharp nose, and had a small frontal area. The tightly packed fuselage contained the radar, cockpit, cannon, fuel, landing gear, and engines. Or engine, I guess, singular. The fuselage and wing combination provided low drag except at a high angle of attack, at which point induced drag became very high. The F-104 had good acceleration, rate of climb, and top speed, but its sustained turn performance was poor, as we've certainly seen. A clean F-104 could sustain a 7G turn below 5,000 feet with full afterburner. Given the aircraft's prodigious fuel consumption at that altitude and relatively small fuel capacity, such a maneuver would dramatically reduce its time on station. The F-104 was designed to use the General Electric J79 turbojet engine, fed by side-mounted intakes with fixed inlet cones optimized for performance at Mach 1.7, later increased to Mach 2 for F-104s equipped with the more powerful J79 GE19 engines. Alright, let's see where... Okay, so we are right on track. We'll probably want to roll over... Oh, there we go. There's some decent turn performance, but... we're also pretty slow at this point, relatively speaking. Unlike some supersonic aircraft, the F-104 did not have variable geometry inlets. Instead, at high Mach numbers, excess air was bypassed around the engine. This bypassed air also helped cool the engine. Its thrust-to-drag ratio was excellent, allowing a maximum speed well in excess of Mach 2. Available thrust was actually limited by the geometry of the inlet scoop and duct. The aircraft was capable of even higher Mach numbers if the aluminum skin of the aircraft were able to withstand the heating due to air friction. Furthermore, speeds above Mach 2 quickly overheated the J79 engine beyond its thermal capabilities, which resulted in the F-104 being given a design airspeed limitation of Mach 2. The engine consisted of a 17-stage compressor, an accessory drive section, an annular combustion chamber, a 3-stage turbine, and an afterburner. Most powerful version of the J79, the J79 GE19, was rated at 11,900 pound-foot dry thrust and 7,900 pound-foot with afterburn. Bleed air from the compressor's 17th stage, whoops, I gotta pay attention more, was used for a number of purposes: the BLCS, cabin pressurization, and air conditioning. Hot air, jet, rain removal, fuel transfer, canopy, and windshield defogging and defrosting, pressure for the pilot's anti-G suit, pressurization and cooling of the nose-mounted radar equipment, and purging of gas from the M61 autocannon. Alright. Might be stressing the landing gear a little bit here, but now we can try to do a proper landing where we aren't coming in like a missile. I'm going to increase the throttle just a little bit so we can maintain a little bit higher speed coming in. The accessory drive ran 2 hydraulic pumps, 2 variable frequency generators, the generator for the tachometer, and pumps for the engine fuel and oil. Oh, wrong function key there. The basic armament of the F-104 was the 20mm M61 Vulcan autocannon. As the first aircraft to carry the weapon, testing of the Starfighter revealed issues with the initial version of the M61. The Gatling mechanism cannon suffered problems with its linked ammunition, being prone to misfeed and presenting a foreign object damage hazard, as discarded links were occasionally sucked into the engine. A linkless ammunition feed system was developed for the upgraded M61A1 installed on the F-104C. The M61A1 has subsequently been used by a wide variety of American and combat aircraft. Alright, and we are coming in a little too slow. You'll notice that we are losing altitude at, what, 40% thrust? We're still losing altitude at 50% thrust, which goes to show the extremely high landing speeds that you need for this aircraft. And obviously this game isn't complex enough to simulate things like the bleed air system. It's got, because the flight model is pretty simple. So okay, there we go. So we want our, yeah, now we're falling again, which a little bit is fine, but we're just going too fast. Oh, they want me to land on the... they want me to land on the other airfield. Or on the other runway. Well, too bad. This one's the one with the little blinky lights, and it's telling me I'm doing not terrible. There we go. Stabilize her out. Alright, now we can... There we go. Bring her down. Slowly. Coming down. Coming down. Okay. That was as gentle as I could make it. I think the game just has a problem where if you come in at over a certain speed, you just immediately blow out the tires. And I think that's what's happening here, but... Although, yeah, otherwise we successfully completed it. Oh, we didn't even get a landing grade? Come on. The cannon mounted in the lower part of the port fuselage was fed by a 725 round drum behind the pilot's seat. With the firing rate of 6,000 rounds per minute, the cannon would empty the drum after just over 7 seconds of continuous fire. Obviously, cannons in the game do not fire that fast, for whatever reason, I guess to make it a little bit easier. The cannon was emitted in all the 2-seat models and some single-seat versions, including reconnaissance aircraft, with the gun bay and ammunition drum typically replaced by additional fuel tanks. 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles could be carried on the wingtip stations, which could also be used for fuel tanks. The F-104C and later models added a centerline pylon and 2 underwing pylons for bombs, rocket pods, or fuel tanks. The centerline pylon could carry a nuclear weapon. A Caterman launcher for 2 additional Sidewinders could be fitted under the forward fuselage, although the installation had minimal ground clearance and so rendered the seeker heads of the missiles vulnerable to ground debris. The 2 F-104S variants added a pair of fuselage pylons beneath the intakes for conventional bomb carriage and an additional pylon under each wing for a total of 9. Early starfighters were also capable of carrying and launching a single MB-1 or Air-2A Genie rocket-powered nuclear missile using an extending trapezoid launcher. This configuration was tested on a single aircraft but was not adopted for service use, however. NASA later used it for launching test rockets. The initial USAF starfighters had a basic RCA AM ASG-14T1 ranging radar, tactical air navigation system, and an AN ARC 34 UHF radio. The AN ASG-14 fire control system used a 24-inch pencil beam radar antenna with 2 independent sights, one optical and one infrared. Early versions of the radar had a range of approximately 20 miles in search mode, with later models reaching up to 40 miles. The scan pattern was spiral, covering a 90-degree cone. Search mode was usable only above 3,000 feet due to ground return effects below that altitude. Track mode was usable within 10 miles of the target, which narrowed the scan to 20 degrees and initiated a strobe sweep between 300 and 3,000 yards in auto acquisition mode. The radar also had a third receive-only mode, useful for locking onto sources of interference from electronic countermeasures. In the late 1960s, Lockheed developed a more advanced version of the Starfighter, the F-104S, for use by the Italian Air Force. Similar to the F-104G, Lockheed produced 2 main variants of the F-104S, an all-weather interceptor, given the model designation CI, and a strike aircraft, given model designation CB. CI variant received a FIAR NASAR F-15G radar with AIM-7 Sparrow guidance capability. However, the new missile guidance avionics came at the expense of the M61A1 Vulcan cannon, which was removed to make room. Okay, so some were fitted with Sparrows, but they had to sacrifice the gun. The CB variant was equipped with a FIAR NASAR R21G-H radar and a radar altimeter for low-level strike missions, retaining the cannon as its only air-to-air weapon. As part of the Aggiornamento Sistema di Arma, or weapon system upgrade in the mid-1980s, both variants were given an ALQ 7072 ECM suite and a FIAR NASAR R21G/M1 radar with frequency hopping and look-down shoot-down capability. The new radar and guidance systems enabled the aircraft to carry the new AIM-9L Sidewinder infrared guided missile, replacing the older AIM-9B, as well as the AIM-7 Sparrow and the Selena Aspide radar guided missiles. Early starfighters used a downward firing ejection seat, the Stanley C-1, out of concern over the ability of an upward firing seat to clear the T-tail empennage. This presented obvious problems in low altitude escapes, and 21 USAF pilots, including test pilot Captain Ivan Carl Kinchillo Jr., failed to escape from their stricken aircraft in low-level emergencies because of it. The downward firing seat was replaced by the Lockheed C-2 upward firing seat, which was capable of clearing the tail, but still had a minimum speed limitation of 90 knots. Many export starfighters were later retrofitted with the Martin Baker Mark 700 ejection seats. The Starfighter was designed for production rates of up to 20 airplanes per day from a single assembly line. The entire aircraft was designed for modular assembly and disassembly. The two principal fuselage sections were split along the vertical center line and completely assembled in two separate halves. All equipment, including wiring and plumbing, were installed inside the two halves before being joined. Wings were then attached with 10 bolts plus a fairing. Although the F-104 was designed as an air superiority fighter, the United States Air Force's immediate need at the time was for a supersonic interceptor. In the late 1950s, the United States government believed it was significantly behind the USSR in terms of the size of its jet-powered bomber fleet. In response, the USAF had ordered two interceptors from Convair, the F-102 Delta Dagger and the F-106 Delta Dart, but both aircraft were experiencing long development delays. The Starfighter's speed and rate of climb performance intrigued the Air Force, who pressed the F-104A into service as an interim interceptor with the Air Defense Command, even though its range and armament were not suited for the role. On the 26th of February 1958, the first unit to become operational with the F-104A was the 83rd Fighter Interceptor Squadron at Hamilton Air Force Base, California. The newly operational aircraft experienced problems with both the J-79 engine and M61 cannon, and after 3 months of service, the unit was grounded following a series of engine-related accidents. The aircraft were then fitted with the J-79 GE-3B engine, and another 3 ADC units were equipped with the F-104A. During this time, the Air Force's interest in the Starfighter was waning due to a shift in strategy toward fighters with longer ranges and heavier ordnance loads. As a result, the USAF reduced their orders of the F-104A from 722 to 170, and the F-104A and F-104B aircraft of the 83rd, 56th, and 337th FIS were handed over to the 151st, 157th, and 197th FIS of the Air National Guard after less than a year of service with the ADC. In August of 1958, only a few months after establishing operational readiness with the F-104, the 83rd FIS was assigned to an air defense and deterrence mission in Taiwan after the People's Republic of China began an intense artillery campaign against the Republic of China on its disputed islands of Quemoy and Matsu. Tension between the two forces was high. Artillery duels were ongoing since the first crisis in 1954, and the People's Liberation Army Air Force had recently relocated 200 MiG-15s and MiG-17s airfields on the mainland to fight against the Republic of China Air Force. According to Colonel Howard Scrappy Johnson, one of the F-104 pilots appointed to Taiwan, the Starfighter's presence was so the PLAAF would track them on their radar screens and sit back and scratch their head in awe. On the 10th of September, the first F-104s arrived in Taiwan, delivered disassembled by C-124 Globemaster II transport aircraft. This was the first time that the air transport was used to move fighter aircraft long distances. Within 30 hours of arriving, First Lieutenant Crossley J. Fitton had the first of the 83rd's airplanes in the air, and by the 19th of September, the entire unit was ready for day or night alert status. The F-104 flew a number of supersonic runs between Taiwan and mainland China, at speeds up to Mach 2 as an air superiority demonstration. And though there were no direct enemy engagements prior to withdrawal after a ceasefire was agreed on the 6th of October, the Starfighter provided a significant deterrent effect. USAF General Lawrence Cutter, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Air Forces, reported that the F-104A had made a tremendous impression on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. During the Berlin crisis in 1961, President John F. Kennedy ordered 148,000 United States National Guard and Reserve personnel to active duty on the 30th of August in response to Soviet moves to cut off Allied access to Berlin. 21,067 individuals were from the Air National Guard, forming 18 fighter squadrons, 4 reconnaissance squadrons, 6 transport squadrons, and a tactical control group. On the 1st of November 1961, the USAF mobilized 3 more A&G fighter interceptor squadrons. In late October and early November, 8 of the tactical fighter units flew to Europe with their 216 aircraft in Operation Stairstep. Because of their short range, 60 F-104As were airlifted to Europe in late November, among them the 151st FIS and 157th FIS. As with the Taiwan crisis 3 years earlier, the Starfighter did not directly engage any enemy fighters, but its presence provided a powerful air superiority deterrent. It demonstrated very quick reaction times and exemplary acceleration during practice intercepts, and proved superior to all other fighters in the theater. The crisis ended in the summer of 1962, and the A&G personnel returned to the United States, but the F-104's solid performance helped convince the ADC to recall some of the F-104s back into active USAF service the following year. The F-104C entered service with the USAF Tactical Air Command as a multi-role fighter and fighter bomber. The 479th Tactical Fighter Wing at George Air Force Base, California, was the first unit to be equipped with the type in September of 1958. Commencing with Operation Rolling Thunder, the Starfighter was used both in the air superiority and air support roles. On the 19th of April 1965, the 476th Tactical Fighter Squadron of the 479th Tactical Fighter Wing arrived at Da Nang Air Base to help protect US F-105 Thunder Chief fighter bombers against MiG-17s and especially MiG-21s that were beginning to be flown by the Vietnamese People's Air Force. The F-104 was also deployed extensively as a barrier combat air patrol protector for the EC-121D Warning Star airborne early warning aircraft patrolling off the North Vietnamese coast. The F-104s were successful in deterring MiG interceptors and performed well as close support aircraft, though they were largely uninvolved in aerial combat and recorded no air-to-air kills during the conflict. The North Vietnamese were well aware of the F-104's performance, and the 479th TFW's pilots felt that the MiGs were deliberately avoided engaging them. 25 MiG kills were scored by fighters controlled by EC-121 Big Eye missions, and their Starfighter escorts played a vital role in ensuring their safety. From the first F-104 deployment in April 1965 to December, Starfighters flew a total of 2,937 combat sorties. These sorties resulted in the loss of 5 aircraft, one from the 476th TFS, which deployed from April to July of 1965, and 4 from the 436th Tactical Fighter Squadron, which deployed from July to October of 1965. One incident on the 20th of September claimed 3 F-104s when Captain Philip E. Smith strayed into Chinese airspace and was shot down by a Chinese Shenyang J-6. 2 more collided in midair while searching for Smith's missing jet. No losses were reported from the 435th Tactical Fighter Squadron's first deployment from October to December 1965. Starfighters returned to Vietnam when the 435th Tactical Fighter Squadron redeployed from June 1966 until August of 1967. During this time, F-104s flew a further 2,269 combat sorties for a total of 5,206. F-104s operating in Vietnam were upgraded in service with the AN/APR 2526 radar warning receiver equipment. One such example is on display in the Air Zoo in Kalamazoo, Michigan. During the second deployment, an additional 9 aircraft were lost, for a total of 14 F-104s lost to all causes in Vietnam. In July of 1967, the Starfighter units transitioned to the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. In 1967, these Tactical Air Command aircraft were transferred to the Air National Guard. By the late 1950s, USAF fighter doctrine had shifted away from air superiority and placed more importance on the interceptor and tactical fighter bomber roles. The F-104 was deemed inadequate for either, lacking both payload capability and endurance in comparison with other USAF aircraft. As a result, the USAF procured only 296 examples of the Starfighter, including both single-seat and two-seat versions. The F-104 service with the USAF was quickly wound down after the aircraft's second deployment to Southeast Asia in 1967. Although the remaining F-104As in regular USAF service have been recently fitted with more powerful and reliable J-79 GE-19 engines, the last USAF Starfighters left regular Air Force service in 1969. The aircraft continued in use with the Puerto Rico Air National Guard until 1975 when it was replaced by the A-7 Corsair II. The last use of the F-104 Starfighter in U.S. markings was training pilots for the West German Air Force with a wing of TF-104Gs and F-104Gs based at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona. Although operated in USAF markings, these aircraft, which included German-built aircraft, were owned by West Germany, and they continued in use until 1983. In 1961, Pakistan, being a major non-NATO ally, received 14 ex-USAF Air Defense Command starfighters under the Mutual Assistance Program, which comprised of 12 F-104A models and 2 dual-seat F-104B models. These were fitted with C2 upward firing ejection seats, A and ASG-14T1 fire control systems, more powerful General Electric J79-11A engines, and the M61 Vulcans were also refitted on the Pakistan Air Force's request. Moreover, an F-104B was modified by the PAF to carry Swedish TA-7M reconnaissance cameras in the back seat. Other than that, a single F-104A was modified to carry radar homing devices, like the radar locator and short-range low-altitude radar detection. The No. 9 Squadron Griffins was the only PAF squadron to be equipped with these starfighters. The PAF also provided F-104 instructors to Jordan in order to train their pilots in the aircraft after the Royal Jordanian Air Force started receiving its starfighters in 1968. One of the Jordanian pilots, Major Ihsan Shurdam, later rose to command the RJAF. The starfighter served with the Pakistan Air Force from 1961 until 1972, when the lack of spare parts due to post-war U.S. sanctions led to an early retirement. During the round of Kutch crisis in April 1965, a detachment of 2 Griffin F-104s was deployed at Maripur Base under the command of Squadron Leader Middlecote. An F-104 flown by Farooq Umar also assisted the Army's 24th Cavalry, 15th Frontier Force, and 15th Punjab regiments in capturing Biarbat from Indian forces. Later in June, PAF 104s forced an Indian Dassault Uragan, which had intruded into Pakistani airspace, to make a forced landing at Jangshai village near Badan. PAF F-104s were deployed in a variety of roles during the 1965 war. These included air defense, high-altitude interceptions, night fighting roles, reconnaissance, etc. In the opening rounds of the war on the 1st of September, Flight Lieutenant Farooq Umar, on the orders of the PAF's CNC Air Marshal Noor Khan, executed 2 sonic booms in his F-104 over the enemy airbase at Amritsar. This was done in order to harass the Indian Air Force as a sign of dominance. On the 3rd of September 1965, 2 Griffin F-104As, flown by Flying Officer Abbas Mirza and Flight Lieutenant Hakamullah, intercepted 6 IAF Bullen Gnats over Aknur, which had attacked the lone F-86 Sabre. While the Sabre managed to return to base despite sustaining heavy damage, starfighters made supersonic passage near the Indian Gnats, which resultantly spread panic amongst the IAF pilots. In the ensuing chaos, Squadron Leader Brijpal Singh Sikand landed his Nat F-1 at an abandoned Pakistani airstrip at Pasrur. The F-104's first air-to-air combat victory was achieved by the Pakistan Air Force on the dawn of 6th of September 1965, when a pair of Griffin F-104As flown by Flight Lieutenant Aftab Alam Khan and Flight Lieutenant Amjad Hussain Khan were vectored towards 4 Indian Assault Mysteri 4s that were attacking a passenger train at Gakar Station. While Flight Lieutenant Amjad aborted due to radio failure, Flight Lieutenant Aftab went ahead with the interception and shot down a Mysteri 4 with an AIM-9B while damaging another with his 20mm M61 Vulcan. The kill with an AIM-9B Sidewinder is claimed by the PAF as the first combat kill by any Mach 2 aircraft and the PAF's first missile kill, though the Indian Air Force denies the loss. On 7th September 1965, a Griffin F-104A, flown by Flight Lieutenant Amjad Hussain Khan, intercepted 6 Indian Dassault Mysteries, which were attacking the Sargodha airbase. While 5 of the Indian Mysteries managed to escape, a fierce dogfight ensued between Flight Lieutenant Amjad's F-104 and Squadron Leader Devia's Mystery. Amjad fired an AIM-9B, but it missed and hit the ground, so he switched to his 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon after some attempts, and to score several hits on Devia's Mystery. However, due to high-G maneuvering, Amjad's F-104 was forced into a low-speed dogfight by a determined Devaya, something which we saw the F-104 does not do good at, which forced Amjad to ram his F-104 into the Mysteri. A mid-air collision resulted in both pilots losing control of their warplanes. While Flight Lieutenant Amjad managed to eject safely over Katnaka, the Indian pilot perished with his mystery. On the 11th of September 1965, a Griffin F-104A flown by Flight Lieutenant Hakamura almost engaged with an Indian MiG-21F during a combat air patrol over Lashore, but was forced to abort due to fuel shortage. On the 13th of September 1965, OC No. 9 Squadron Wing Commander Mervyn Middlecoat fired a Sidewinder at an IAF Canberra bomber during a night interception. An explosion was reported at around 4,000 feet, but confirmation was not possible. On the 21st of September 1965, Squadron Leader Jamal, while flying a Griffin F-104A, intercepted a high-flying IAF English Electric Canberra at night and shot it down with a Sidewinder near Fazilka over Pakistani airspace. In total, Griffin F-104s flew 246 hours and 45 minutes during the 1965 war, which comprised of 204 day sorties and 42 night missions. Commencement of hostilities in 1971 again led to the PAF deploying its small fleet of F-104s heavily in air-to-air and ground attack roles. Surplus F-104As and Bs were also received from Jordan. In early December 1971, PAF launched Operation Genghis Khan, inspired from Israel's Operation Focus after a series of invasions by Indian forces in East Pakistan. As part of these preemptive strikes, the Starfighters were employed particularly in attacks on various Indian radar stations. On the 3rd of December 1971, a formation of 2 Starfighters attacked the IAF radar station at Amritsar. On the 4th of December 1971, squadron leaders Amula and Rashid Badi, flying F-104As, again struck the IAF's Amritsar radar without any significant results due to heavy anti-aircraft fire. On the 11th of December, 2 F-104A pilots, two F-104As piloted by Wing Commander Arif Iqbal, squadron leader Amula, struck the Indian air base of Uttarlai, during which squadron leader Amanullah destroyed an HF-24 parked on the tarmac with his Starfighter's M61 cannon, while flight leader Arif Iqbal strafed another HF-24, which was trying to take off from the airbase. On the 4th of December 1971, a Folan Nat and Sukhoi Su-7 were shot down after they confronted a formation of 2 PAF starfighters attacking the Amritsar radar. On the 8th of December, an F-104 piloted by Flight Lieutenant Mansoor Bukhari intercepted a Canberra bomber and shot it down. On the 10th of December, an F-104 flown by Wing Commander Arif Iqbal shot down an Indian Navy Burgut 1050 Elise while attacking the Oka port. On the morning of the 12th of December, the first direct air-to-air combat engagement between an F-104 and a MiG-21 took place when OC No. 9 Squadron Wing Commander Mervyn, along with his wingman Tariq Habib, while performing airstrikes on the IAF's Jamnagar airbase, were bounced by 2 Indian MiG-21FLs of the No. 47 Squadron. While the F-104 formation was returning to Pakistani territory, one of the MiG-21s fired a K-13 missile at Mervyn's F-104. Though he managed to dodge it with evasive maneuvers, a second missile was fired at a range of 300 meters, this time hitting the Starfighter. Mervyn was seen ejecting over the Gulf of Kutch, however the Indian vessels dispatched to capture him claimed he was never found. The PAF initially declared him MIA, but was later declared KIA and posthumously awarded a bar to Sitra-e-Jarat. The second F-104 loss occurred several days later on the 17th of December when a pair of Jordanian lone starfighters on combat air patrol near Hyderabad intercepted 2 MiG-21s which had intruded into Pakistani airspace. The wingman, Flight Lieutenant Samad Ali Changizi, who was flying a starfighter on loan from Jordan, engaged one of the MiG-21s and managed to get behind its tail. Unknown to him, the second MiG-21 had sneaked up behind him and fired a K-13 missile which had missed. His leader tried warning him, but to no avail, as Shangzi was about to shoot down the MiG-21 down. A second K-13 missile was fired by the pursuing IAF MiG-21, which slammed into his F-104. The starfighter went down over Mirpur Khas along with its pilot. Shangzi was posthumously the Citra-e Jurat in honor of his wartime service. The IAF also claims 2 additional PAF starfighter kills that same day, including squadron leader Rashid Badi Starfighter. However, the PAF said he returned without damage to Moscow Air Force Base. Then going back to Taiwan, on the 13th of January 1967, 4 Republic of China Air Force F-104G aircraft engaged a formation of MiG-19s of the People's Liberation Army Air Force over the disputed island of Kinmen. Major Hu Shi-lin and Captain Shi Bei-pu each shot down 1 MiG-19. One F-104 did not return to base and its pilot was listed as missing in action. F-104 designer Kelly Johnson said that this particular battle illustrated the relative strengths and weaknesses of the starfighter in aerial combat. We had them on acceleration, we had them on steady state altitude, but we could not turn with them, said Johnson, who was at the time working on the larger winged, more maneuverable CL-1200 Lancer derivative of the F-104. At the same time that the F-104 was falling out of U.S. favor, the West German Air Force was looking for a multi-role combat aircraft to operate in support of a missile defense system. In response, Lockheed reworked the Starfighter from a fair-weather fighter into an all-weather ground attack, reconnaissance, and interceptor aircraft, and presented it as the F-104G. The redesigned aircraft was chosen over the English Electric P-1, Grumman F-11F-1F Super Tiger, Chance Vought F-8U Crusader, and Republic F-105 Thunderchief. And other aircraft types, including the F-102, F-106, Saunders Rowe SR-177, and the Saab 35 Draken, were also considered but discarded earlier in the process. The F-104G was ultimately chosen because the other 2 finalists were still in development phase, while the F-104 was about to be introduced into USAF service. Although the American version lacked all-weather capability, Lockheed promised that they could deliver this, and favorable reports by the German Ministry of Defense delegation sent in December 1957 to flight test the F-104 tipped the scales in the Starfighter's favor. The Starfighter found a new market with other NATO countries as well, eventually more than 2,000 of all variants of the F-104 were built for international air forces. Several countries received their aircraft under the U.S. government-funded military aid program. The American engine was retained, but built under license in Europe, Canada, and Japan. The Lockheed ejector seats were retained initially, but were replaced in some countries by the safer Martin Baker seat. The so-called deal of the century produced substantial income for Lockheed, but the resulting bribery scandals caused considerable political controversy in Europe and Japan. In 1976, the United States Senate Investigating Committee, led by Senator Frank Church, determined that Lockheed had paid $22 million in bribes to foreign officials during the negotiation processes for the sale of its aircraft, including the F-104 Starfighter. In Germany, Minister of Defense Franz Josef Strauss was accused of having received at least $10 million for West Germany's purchase of the F-104 in 1961. On the 26th of August 1976, Prince Consort Bernhard of the Netherlands was forced to resign as Inspector General of the Dutch Armed Forces after being accused of accepting approximately $1.1 million in bribes. In the Netherlands, the F-104 was used to aid in the ending of the 1977 Dutch train hijacking. On the 11th of June 1977, almost 3 weeks after the start of a hijacking of a train by Moluccan separatists, 6 F-104 jet fighters of the Royal Netherlands Air Force overflew the train 3 times at low altitude using their afterburners to disorient the hijackers as a precursor to an armed attack by Dutch Marines. None of the starfighters used their weapons. The international service of the F-104 began to wind down in the late 1970s, being replaced in many cases by the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon. But it remained in service with some air forces for another 2 decades. The last operational starfighter served with the Italian Air Force, which retired them on the 31st of October 2004. NASA then also used the F-104 for various tests. Most notably, they used them as a safety chase plane for some of their other tests, as well as a launch platform for sounding rockets. And the Starfighter would continue to serve NASA starting in the late 1950s, actually, and it would continue to serve NASA until its final flight on the 31st of January 1994, providing over 18,000 flights to NASA And in 2011, even, Four Frontiers Corporation Starfighters Inc. began working together on a project to launch suborbital sounding rockets from F-104s flying out of Kennedy Space Center. First launches were expected to occur in 2012, and in early 2016, another venture, CubeCab, was working on a rocket system that would launch CubeSats from F-104s. The company said it planned to begin providing launch services in early 2020, but I don't know how those, if they ended up providing them. The F-104 was the first aircraft to simultaneously hold world speed and altitude records, and it also had several time to climb records, specifically from 3,000 feet to 20,000 feet. A lot of those records were held by the Starfighter at one point. As far as variants go, there was the original XF-104 experimental prototype, the YF-104A pre-production aircraft, the F-104A, which was the original production prototype, the NF-104A, which was demilitarized and used for astronaut training at altitudes of up to 120,800 feet, two F-104As, which were radio controlled drone conversions and test aircraft, the F-104B, which was the two-seat trainer version of the F-104A, F-104C, which was a fighter bomber for Air Force Tactical Air Command, F-104D, which was the dual-seat version of the F-104C, F-104DJ, which was a D built for Japan, the F, which is a dual-controlled trainer based on the F-104D but using the upgraded engine of the 104G. It was made as an interim trainer for the German Air Force. And then, of course, there was the most produced version, the F-104G, which originally started as a German variant. There was the F-104G, which was a reconnaissance variant of the F-104G. The TF-104G, a combat-capable trainer. There was an at one point, they were going to make an F-104H, which was an export version with simplified equipment for non-NATO allies, but it was canceled prior to construction. F-104J, which was a specialized interceptor version of the F-104G for the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. The F-104N, which is an unarmed, demilitarized F-104G that was delivered to NASA in 1963 for use as high-speed chase aircraft, one of which famously collided with the XB-70 on the 8th of June 1966. The F-104S, which was the final production version built for Italy by Fiat, and then the two S variants, the ASA and the ASA/M, which were weapon system upgrades, which basically enabled later versions of the Sidewinder and Sparrow to be used. And the last version, to which 49 airframes were upgraded from 1995 to 1997, also integrated GPS. And they were temporarily replaced by F-16s and ultimately by Eurofighter Typhoons. And then there's the CF-104, built for Canada, and its associated trainer variant, the F-104D. And in total, the F-104 ended up being operated by Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Greece, Italy, Japan, Jordan, Netherlands, Norway, Pakistan, Spain, the Republic of China, or Taiwan, Turkey, and the United States. And currently, there are 12 privately owned F-104s in the United States, according to the FAA registry as of 2019. So the aircraft ended up being 54 feet 8 inches long, with a very short wingspan of 21 feet 9 inches and a height of 13 feet 6 inches. Empty weight of 14,000 pounds, max takeoff weight of 29,027 pounds. These are for the F-104G, by the way. Using the General Electric J79 turbojet with 10,000 pound-foot of dry thrust and 15,600 pound-foot of afterburner thrust, and a maximum speed of 1,528 miles per hour, or around Mach 2. Combat range of 420 miles, sorry, not even nautical miles, just miles. And a ferry range is 1,630 miles. A service ceiling of 50,000 feet, a rate of climb of 48,000 feet per minute, which is insane. and a thrust to weight ratio of 0.54 with max takeoff weight, or 0.76 with a standard combat load. And that about does it for the F-104. That ended up actually going on a lot longer than I thought, given its limited combat history, but I guess it did still make a bit of a name for itself. So with that, I think next time we'll probably be delving into the F-105, but until then, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time, and stay safe out there, and we'll see you then.